Hello, welcome. My name is Chad Davis. I'm the Senior Industry Marketing Manager at F5, and today I have Sharon Mosley joining us as she's from Kinecta. Hello, Sharon.
Hi, Chad. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm the CIO for Kinecta, and Kinecta is just a little credit union in Manhattan Beach, 5 billion in assets, and I've been there for almost 9 years now.
Well, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to chat about the credit union industry as a whole and kind of how it's approaching fraud. And I'm sure you have some great thoughts about that. So let's kick things off. First question here for you. Fraud activity has been evolving over the last several years. Can you walk us through what you've witnessed in that respect?
Yeah, so fraud activity is really just getting worse and worse over time, right? It used to be the single player, the bad guy, and now they're organized crime rings. They collaborate with each other, and they get more and more sophisticated all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. You can see the uptick certainly in the sophistication and how they're doing it. Now you have the room full of 50 people, all kind of coming at it. So it's a business for them.
Absolutely.
So clearly, mitigating fraud is crucial to credit unions. What were the driving reasons to work with F5 and Shape for you in the credit union?
Right. So while we were under attack, we had it was interesting. The first attack was back in November, and we have a lot of tools in place ourselves, and we're geo-blocking all kinds of controls. But what we would find is we would be stopping legitimate traffic. And we were just lucky back in November. The bad guys just kind of went away, looking for, I guess, an easier target. But it caused us a lot of headaches and time and energy. So we started looking into solutions. And we spent, frankly, too many months doing that. And next thing you know, before we have something better in place, the bad guys are back with a fury in a kind of like mid-May. And so luckily, I got a call out of the blue from F5. We had looked at Cloudflare. We had looked at, we have our own NetScaler. We were looking at implementing a WAF for our own device. But anybody we talked to found that those solutions really just didn't stand the longer term. As the hackers change their algorithms, their methods, their approaches, the tool becomes frankly useless or takes too much time to administer. So when I got the call from F5, I asked for a reference, and I spoke to another credit union up in Alberta, the heartland where I'm from originally in Canada. So that was kind of cool. But they were having the very same kind of attacks, and they had tried other solutions. And then they went with the Shape solution from F5, and it immediately stopped their attack. So that was kind of sold me. And that phone call was on a Monday. 2 days later, it was implemented, and finally, the attacks were stopped. It was amazing. So I think it was really luck that I found F5, but that's how it happened.
Yeah, very serendipitous. Serendipitous. So one thing you mentioned was, prior to F5, you noticed that it was not necessarily stopping the right traffic with tools you guys had. Tell me a little bit more about that and the impacts of that.
Yeah, so right, we would enforce geo-blocking from countries where we know we don't have members. Most of our members are here in the United States, but they travel too. And so next thing you know, we're blocking legitimate traffic, and we have complaints, and our member is, on business in Taiwan and can't look at their bank accounts. And there's nothing that makes people feel more concerned that if they can't see their money. So yeah, it was very uncomfortable and lots of member complaints. And like I said, our folks had to just constantly tweak things and change things and whitelist people. And so it just becomes a full-time job. And we have other things to do. Yeah, very annoying.
I can see why that member experience is huge for you guys as it is for the whole industry, and I'm sure like just like your institution and others, that is a differentiator for you guys. That's why people do business with you, and I can see
Exactly.
why that would be very important.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so one thing that seems to be a primary target for these criminal organizations is the credential pairs. They're particularly valuable for them, and do, there's only so much you can do, in some respects, in helping members, stopping from like phishing attacks. But is there anything you guys do from a prescriptive effort for your members to help them with this?
We do, right? We have a lot of information on our website just to say, how to keep yourself safe. There are so many people that have the same username and password all over the websites they use, and we say, please, if you're going to do that, do not use the same credentials for your banking information. But you know what it's like, right? We all have so many user IDs and passwords to remember. Folks sometimes do that. So that's really the only prescriptive thing that we can do. And so anybody else, who's out there, please make sure you have some unique and very difficult username and password for your bank accounts. Absolutely.
Yeah, I saw a guy wearing a T-shirt one time, and it said, "I hate passwords," and I just love that T-shirt. I think we can all relate to that.
We
It
can,
is a
for sure.
pain. It is a pain. So malicious attempts seemingly grow by the hour in some cases, and can be quite unsettling, like you kind of were saying earlier. Do you have any other kind of additional insights or anecdotes related to those malicious attempts that would be interesting for the audience to hear?
Yeah, so being a pretty small credit union, our online and mobile banking platform typically on a good day has about 6 to 8 thousand logins per day. When these bad guys showed up, it was like 200,000 per hour. It was ridiculous. So even folks who were allowed in because we weren't blocking them, legitimate customers, they had terrible experience, timeouts, and yeah, it was unbelievable. I had never seen anything like that, and we have IPS, IDS, all those things, and we're stopping hundreds of thousands of things every day. We know that, but this was just highly unusual, very, very voluminous and terrible. We had complaints on social media. I was talking to members myself. It was not a good time.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to hear that kind of that jump, from 6 to 8 to hundreds of thousands an hour. Pretty
Yeah.
wild. I mean, certainly a sign of how sophisticated these criminal organizations are with their attack vectors and whatnot. So, what are your thoughts on the available attack surface continuing to expand as it relates to fraud? Because that's kind of what there's all these different things going on now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem, right? There's more for these bad guys to attack because we do everything we do online, right? And so since the pandemic, it's even worse. If you weren't already doing business digitally, you're trying to make that happen now because it's really the only way to have a successful business. And all systems are having real-time APIs to other systems, so the integration is huge and growing. So it's just more for the bad guys to go after. And they're just, so sophisticated, and algorithms are changing, and they're coming from different countries, from different areas in different manners. So yeah, you just cannot stay on top of it with, kind of standard solutions. You need very, very smart solutions that use machine learning and AI to actually be able to adapt real time to how they modify their attacks, because they just change constantly.
Yeah, it's really really interesting to hear you say because in any kind of situation, when somebody you're up against is increasing their game and getting more sophisticated, you kind of have to do the same.
Absolutely.
So, how do you approach going back to this kind of member experience kind of thing? How do you guys approach offering member convenience while kind of maintaining that security posture? Like, well, because those are kind of at odds with each other, right? Like, how do you guys approach that?
It's a fine balance. We're actually putting in a little bit different authentication capability right now into our digital banking platform. But I think, it's all about how you position this for your membership, that this is to keep you more safe. And if you're doing a riskier transaction, you're going to get a text message, and, we're going to allow you to do, bio recognition, and choose 3 or 4 layers Some folks will choose the one because they're not interested, and others will get it and realize that, gosh, if I add in these layers, I will be safer. So I think it's giving them options is really the right approach, but then also having some mandatory basic things in place to keep them safe from themselves, frankly.
Yeah, yeah. I can certainly appreciate that as a consumer, going through the extra steps. I guess with the mobile phone, a lot of people doing mobile banking now, and certainly interacting with you guys through mobile. I'm sure there's the extra security features that have come along with that, like the fingerprinting or the Face ID recognition. I'm sure that helps kind of make some of that more seamless.
It does, and in fact, our mobile apps are natively protected a little bit better than our online banking app, and that just happens to be maybe the vendors we choose. But the Shape solution that we have from F5 right now is protecting our online banking. We have some more work to do to have it also really kind of help us with mobile. But right now, mobile just doesn't get attacked. It's always our online banking. So.
Yeah, interesting to hear.
Mhm.
So, going back to the machine learning, you mentioned that being a new kind of necessary tool to have in your fraud prevention.
Yeah.
Help us kind of dig into that a little bit more, because that's a very, very key point.
It absolutely is. And it was when I spoke to the credit union up in Alberta who was using the Shape solution that when they talked about how previous solutions would over time just become defenseless. They did not work. But with this solution, it was constantly learning what is a bot, what is a human, and protecting you against the bot and allowing the humans in. So having heard that, I thought, okay, that's because of anybody else I spoke to, either they had different attacks or if they had the attack we had, their solutions would not learn over time. And so when I learned that that is what this does, I'm like, okay, that's the solution for us. And I do want to say that I was really impressed. I don't often make a buy decision when I'm under duress like I was. And the folks from F5 were amazing. It was kind of like, look, we're going to put this in. We'll worry about the contract later. And the main thing is to get you taken care of right now. And I was impressed and surprised at that. And we did talk pricing so that I knew I wouldn't end up with something that a small credit union couldn't afford once it was solved. So I had some idea and I looked at the standard contract, but we just went ahead and implemented it. And within 2 days, it was like heaven. It was amazing. So yeah, the mindset of the staff that worked on our account was really impressive. And so I want to give F5 full kudos for that because you don't see that all the time, right?
That's really great feedback. We love to hear that, and I'm glad they were able to do that for you, because there's I'm sure lots of accounts, lots of priorities, but they sensed obviously with your all situation, it was
Yeah,
imperative.
yeah,
Good to
that's great.
hear. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, having that real time kind of automated machine learning kind of approach is super super important. And you mentioned kind of the human element of it too. Like some of these attacks come as a human element versus a machine kind of automated element. And I think you kind of touched on that a little bit. But the idea of you don't know which it's you can easily identify the human attacks. You can easily identify the automated machine learning ones. But there's kind of the blend in the middle that's even
Mhm.
more. Those are really tough. And then that's like what you were saying earlier. That's when you start shutting down legit members, and
Yep.
that intercross there is crucial, and I think that's a key part of Shape.
Yeah, and I think, so the combination of the solution that is learning as it goes, but also knowing there's 24/7 behind that, real people adjusting things, right? Because you just, when you're a small credit union, you can't afford the staff to do that 24/7. If you can find them, if you can afford them, because they're not cheap and there's not enough of them. So, yeah, we were very happy to pay F5 to do that for on our behalf, and it's been great. And this doesn't mean these bad guys are gone. Every once in a while, we see the reports where they're back again, but we are not having the poor member experience that we had because it's being shut down at F5. So It's awesome.
Great to hear. And that member experience, it's really all about that, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, well, good stuff. I think, we've talked about Shape for a while now, and appreciate that. One more thing I wanted to talk about, if we could, was this idea. I want to know if this came into your buying decision at all. Shape has, an F5 have a very wide breadth of other bank and financial services institutions that we
Hmm.
collect their data as well and identify all the different type of attack vectors and whatnot. Was that part of part of the process for you to understand that? I thought that was
It
partially
was,
important.
yeah. That was in the very first phone call. I learned that, and I can't remember the exact stats now, but I know five of the big nine banks in the U.S. and I don't know, some similar stat in Canada. And I thought, okay, so these are folks who are seeing a lot of traffic, right? And you have the devices that's their purpose. So what better company to work with to ensure that they understand what the bad guys are doing? And you're right, you kind of need that volume of traffic in order to know what is good and what is bad. So yeah, that absolutely did factor into the decision as well.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's nice to know if you see the whole picture there, you can kind of see what the bad guys did over here, so we know what they're gonna do here and all that good stuff. All right, so what are your thoughts on the available attack surface continuing to expand as it relates to fraud?
Well, I think every business, to stay in business today, needs to be doing business digitally. And that also means that there are more systems talking to other systems, integration, real time APIs are enabling everything to talk to everything. So it gives the bad guys just all the more space to attack. And so they're getting better, smarter, and there's more out there for them to go after. So therefore, the protection is even more important.
Well, good. So shifting gears a little bit here, our audience are F5 marketers, and would love to hear from someone in your position, some of the kind of things that are appealing to you from a marketing standpoint. And so just a couple questions for you in that respect. First one here is when you need to solve a problem with a new product or solution, how do you research that product?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we that we Kinecta went about it in the most effective manner. So we spent, I think, too much time evaluating things, and sadly, for whatever reason, did not pay attention to F5. We looked into so many other solutions and could never find the right answer. So maybe, and like I said, I was just lucky to get this phone call. So there must be something F5 could do a little bit better so that even small credit unions, community banks like us could, yeah, be better informed. So I'm not sure exactly what that would look like, but we did not start an F5 investigation when we started looking at products and services for whatever reason.
Thank you very much for your time today. This has been fantastic.
Thank you, Chad. You have a good day.